Hi, this is Thomas McLean. This is lesson plan 1 with my elementary student. So here we go. This is Miss Diffie. She is my mentor.
In your lesson today with, what do you call him, Rob on here, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the use of visual schedules in your lesson, and how you think that might, how it was helpful, and how you could have maybe gotten even more specific within your lesson with the visual schedule.
Okay. Some of my visuals that I did use with him were fine, but in particular, I remember we went to a workshop, and they suggested a first bin board. And as I think about it, that at a particular time where he was off topic, he's wanting to do something else. If I could have had that first bin board to show him first this, then his preferred activity, I think that would have helped, because he was kind of hard to get back on track there for a little while, but it would have been much easier if I could have done that.
So besides the first then board, what is something else you think that you might have incorporated if you're reflecting back on your lesson?
I think that the biggest thing that I probably could have done differently is I probably could have been a little stronger on the front end explaining, because I explained the whole class, but because of Rob's intellectual disability, if I sat specifically with him and kind of explained what we were fixing to do and about how long it was going to take, and maybe even with Rob, maybe even a timer, to where, which I don't normally like doing, but with him I think it would have been very helpful in retrospect if he could have seen, hey, we've just got 5 more minutes left in this lesson and then you get to do this. That could have been helpful. It was kind of an open-ended lesson, but I still think I could have made better progress with him and done it a little quicker if he could have seen a determinable end, you know? But other than that, I do feel like he kind of grasped the concept.
I felt like the introduction with the technology piece, I felt that whenever you had the on the smart board and it was reading to them, that gave you the opportunity to move around with the students, interact with them while it was the information being presented that way.
Right.
I felt that was a really strong piece to your lesson and getting information across. Do you think that would it have been beneficial for the students, those particular students, if they would have had their own technology? Do you think that they could have shown their mastery of the content in another way?
Right. Yeah. I'm quite sure they could have, because I chose to let them draw. If you remember on the KWL, I chose to let them draw on the no part. But it would have been better. Not quite sure about Rob, because he's very hunt and peck. With
Well, what about some programs like, you and I both were introduced to Kahoot, or something that made it kind of a, is it where it's 2 things, is it this or this, and it would.
Right. Yeah, because even the Kahoot, I could see him in particular. He'd have had a ball with that. That's a good idea.
And I'm sure there's some other ways out there. I don't know the students well enough to know their artistic abilities.
Right.
But some animals are a little more difficult to draw than others.
Yeah.
And some of your students seem to be a little more OCD and wanting to do it perfectly, and it was hard to pull them from the drawing piece of it back to the KWL chart. I did like the KWL chart. I felt like the students responded well to that. They kind of liked being able to see, hey, I know this, I know this, I know this.
Yeah.
And they seemed to really like what their questions were, what they wanted to know. And then, you know, in the conclusion, answering what they learned, they seemed to, you know, that was some positive reinforcement for them. I think that they had some intrinsic value from that.
Right. Help them feel like they do know.
Yes, that they mastered a skill.
Yeah.
I thought that was an important piece to show them what you know, that they already knew and what they ended up learning.
And with Rob in particular, there at the end, the what I learned portion of that, he didn't actually write it on the chart. He did articulate it to me. A couple of things that I think he didn't know before, which I was glad of that. The writing part for him, the written expression is still that's a tough chore with him.
Thinking back, just looking at the KWL chart, and that to me was a very significant piece to that group of students. What is a way that maybe, if you come across something that was obviously knowing Rob's family, the lesson was something that he did have a lot of background information about, a lot of knowledge of outside of school.
Yeah.
He knew what was a doe and what was a buck, and he knew what was a fawn, and he was popcorning out things throughout the lesson. But there are going to be things that you have to introduce that he does not have background knowledge to.
Yeah.
The KWL chart is going to be something the kids are going to want to do again because they did feel that it was an intrinsic motivator to them. What is a way that you could differentiate that KWL, do you think, for something that they might not know so much about?
I think maybe, for one, maybe I could do like a week before, or even a few days before, I could do a specific lesson about that thing that I want them to learn. Not give them the whole ball of wax, but give them something, some instruction. If it's even over maybe the first president. Give them some very basic information about George Washington, and that way they could have some I know, but then give them more specific things about you know, how long he was president, who his wife was, the whole cherry tree thing.
Pique their interest.
Yeah. Give them just a little bait towards the end.
I really felt that the lesson went well. I felt that you did a good job of meeting his needs with the touching and the, you know, I'm at a loss for words are being recorded, so I'm losing my words. But I felt like for him, you knew exactly when he was needing that touch, that redirection, that sensory. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You knew whenever he was needing that to keep him going, and I felt that it was a lesson done well. I felt that all the students, not just him, gained from it and were able to express what they had learned from the lesson as well. And you know and that's a tough group.
Yeah.
Because you've got 4 different diagnoses. You've got 4 different individual needs that have been met as far as the education and sensory and keeping on task and their ability to communicate. So that's not an easy chore to do, and you do a wonderful job with that.
Well, thanks. I love it. I love those kiddos.
You did an excellent job with your differentiation.
All right.
Well, that's all I have on my notes for that lesson.
I think we'll be back with lesson 2 in a little bit.
Okay.
Thanks.